some people, send them. Teenagers will be here from all over America. The doors at the Star Plaza Theater will not be open tonight until 6 p.m. The service starts at 7. The doors will not be open. That's their rules. We have to abide by their rules. Will not be open until 6 p.m. Now, if you have a ticket, you either use it or give it to somebody that will. We have had, now all of our delegates, well, I'd say 99% of our delegates have tickets for inside the theater, and the others of you have tickets for the big closed-circuit television screen in the ballroom, Celebrity Ballroom. But if you have a ticket for the Star Theater itself inside the main building and you're not going to use it, please give it to somebody else, because we only have so many tickets and so many seats. We're not allowed to bring extra chairs in. It's against the fire code. we can't do what we're doing right here, and so forth. By the way, if you got a ticket for parking close to the tracks, put that ticket on the pulpit and we'll take care of it. It's just another way our city loves to have PR and make friends around the country. And the mayor will be getting a call from me in a few hours. And a chance to have good publicity. And they blew it. We wonder why Hammond is not considered All-American City. Shut up. There's a brown Chevy Cavalier wagon on State Street, Illinois, license LKP 928. Your lights are on. All right, everybody come in and get settled. Something on the stove cooking about to burn. Again, we're happy you're here. This is the last day of our pastor school. We've been very honored again to have you at our 32nd annual pastor school.
On December 31st, 1949, Willis Athy Hyles, the father of Brother Hyles, attended the Grange Hall Baptist Church's New Year's Eve watch night service. He admitted to his son, the pastor of the church, that, you know, the folks in the world never had such a good time as this. He also went on to promise his son that, you know, come spring, he'd get saved. Come spring, he'd walk the aisle of the church. Come spring, he'd even let that preacher boy son of his baptize him. He'd even go so far as to serve on the deacon board. Just come spring. But spring never came. On Mother's Day of 1950, Brother Hyles received the phone call that said that his father had dropped dead of a heart attack, and as far as Brother Hyles knows, unsaved. At the O'Neill Funeral Chapel, the heartbroken young preacher sat, listened, and grabbed hold of the words of the song that was being sung, The Haven of Rest.
By the way, Mrs. Hyles was the one who sang the song at Daddy's funeral service.
I've heard my soul
wonderful woman in every way. Most courageous woman I know. The young man I'm going to introduce now is a young man to me because we were boys together. He does not know the story I'm going to tell right now, though I'm sure he may suspicion it. The city of Dallas, from the downtown area to where I grew up, you left downtown, you came to what was called the Oak Cliff section. Now in those days, the Oak Cliff section was an affluent neighborhood. Nice houses. They're old and dilapidated now, but people were rather well-to-do in Oak Cliff. By the way, that's the area where John R. Rice started his church many years ago. The Oak Cliff section, you left that, went a few miles. You came to what was called the Trinity Heights section. The Trinity Heights section was more middle class. Just basically middle class people. Then you kept on going south and you came to the Lisbon section. That was the ghetto, what you would call the ghetto now. When I was a little boy, we lived in the Lisbon section. You saw the pictures Monday night. We moved a lot. In fact, we live in, I think, 18 houses my first 17 years of my life. And we couldn't find a place to live, and so we found an apartment over in Trinity Heights. Now, that doesn't mean anything to you, except Trinity Heights to me was where the rich people lived. I grew up in the ghettos. I was a little boy in the ghettos. I was about junior higher, and that's where the real poor people lived, out in Lisbon. Now, Trinity Heights, by the way, Fernwood Baptist Church was the poor church, and Hillcrest was in Trinity Heights, and it was the middle-class church. And it always seemed flusy to me. You know how it is. If you're real poor, anybody's got a house or a car, they're rich. And Trinity Heights was, to me, where the rich people live. Truth is, middle class. But Hillcrest Baptist Church, to me, was way above me. We got an apartment, and a little 3-room apartment. It so happened it was right across the street from the Hillcrest Baptist Church. Well, I sure didn't want to go there to church. That's where the rich people were. And we used to play them in softball, Fernwood, and we were the trash, and to us, they were the wealthy people. Well, we didn't have a car, and Mother said, "Son, we're going to have to go to Hillcrest Baptist Church." And I said, "Mom, I don't want to go to Hillcrest Baptist Church. We're too poor. I can't dress like those folks dress, and I just don't want to go. That's the rich people." And we tried to go to Fernwood. It was too far. We had no way to get there. Sometimes they'd come and get us, and somebody'd give us a ride, but they got tired of that. And right across the street was Hillcrest Baptist Church. I guess I must have been 12, 13 years of age, and went over there. And I didn't feel at home. And I went home and I said, "Mama, those kids are rich over there. I just don't want to go there." And after a couple of times we went, a young man, a boy about my age, befriended me. I would not have stayed. We would not have stayed. Mother wouldn't have stayed if I hadn't wanted to stay. And we would not have stayed in the Hillcrest Baptist Church if this boy, my age, had not befriended me. Now, he lived across the street from Miss Hyles, just about 4 or 5 houses down. His name was Leroy Howard. We called him Pee-wee. We used to throw him out of the window in Sunday school regularly. And we were like every other kids are. And one of our favorite hobbies was throwing Pee-wee out the window of that little frame building. And many things. We played on the same ball team. He played first base. I was the pitcher. Played on the same teams. We played basketball together. We organized a basketball team, and we played together. And we were buddies. Same Sunday school classes, same Sunday school teacher. His dad was one of the best men I ever met, still living, 100 years old. We could not get him here because he just wasn't able to come. His mother was my high school superintendent when I was a high schooler in Sunday school. And to you First Baptist people, his mother was my Elaine Colston being superintendent of the high school 2 department. My life was wrapped around the same things that Leroy Howard's life was wrapped around. We were buddies. We lived about 5 blocks apart. As I said, he lived across the street from his house all those years. But they had a house. We didn't. His daddy had a job. Mine didn't. He had a daddy. I didn't. His daddy came to church. My daddy didn't. Leroy wore pretty decent clothes. I didn't have nice clothes to wear then. And he befriended me. He made me feel at home. When you hear him in a few minutes and see his personality, you'll understand he's just that kind of guy. But he always has been. I do not believe that I would have stayed at Hillcrest Baptist Church had it not been for, we call him Pee Wee Howard. If I had not stayed at Hillcrest Baptist Church, I would not have come under the influence of my preacher, J.C. Sizemore, who influenced me so much. If he had not influenced me, I would not have been a premillennialist. I would not have been a separatist. I wouldn't be here. So in a real sense, I would not be behind this microphone and pulpit today. I'm convinced if it had not been for a little friend who befriended me. You know, those poor little bus kids that come to your church, they need somebody to make them feel like they're somebody. I was the ghetto boy. I was the poor boy. I'd watch Mr. Howard walk by my house to church, and I'd cry many a night, wishing my daddy would go across the street to church with me. I love this little fellow. He's a successful businessman now. If I remember correctly, he's from May to September older than I am. Birthday in May? You knew I'd say that. And I love him. I could have called many, many people from Hillcrest Baptist Church, and they'd have come, been glad to come. I could have called many of the crowd I used to run with, and they'd have been more than happy to come. But out of all the people, all the folks I knew at Hillcrest, I decided I wanted Pee Wee Howard to come because he's the reason I stayed there when I was a boy. And he, to me, was the rich kid who took time to befriend and welcome the ghetto boy. Pee Wee, Leroy Howard. Thank you. Oh, this is exciting to me. I mean, you don't understand it. You don't understand it until you're one of the bus kids. We didn't have buses in my days. If they had, I'd have been a bus kid. As it was, I was a foot kid. But Leroy Howard's mom and daddy and Leroy's family, to me, was everything that a family ought to be. I coveted what he had. I longed to have what he had. Never had it. But Leroy, Pee Wee we called him, befriended me when I needed a friend. What memories do you have?
Oh, I have so many memories, Jack. I'll call you Brother Jack.
That's
I can't realize you're Dr. Hyles. I understand that.
Jack.
I came here
That's
about
right,
10
Jack.
years ago with Bob Keys, who's now with the Lord, and Bob was then instrumental in getting me involved in the music. And is Margaret Sizemore still over there?
I don't think so.
I don't. She's gone. You know, she was our, then, as you say, she played the organ, and she had so much enthusiasm, we just couldn't get over. She was such a wonderful Christian. But, you know, I don't know whether Jack understands this or not, and knows, but my father, and I had a temptation to come, I went to talk to my dad, and he'll be 100 in about 45 days, and I told him, I said, Dad, Jack wants us to come and honor him and as his younger days, and my dad just, Jack Hyles said, son, I have prayed for that young man, and I just praise the Lord with how much the Lord has blessed his ministry. Some of you may not know. I'm going to get carried away here, but I want to say one thing. I never knew that he used this Pee Wee so indiscriminately through these years, because Phil, who's been my host, been carrying me around and introduced me. He's Pee Wee from Dallas. I said, well, you can understand now why I never was grow. He kept throwing me out the window at the Royal Ambassadors meeting every time we had one. But Jack, my folks, my mother was a wonderful soul winner, and I never realized that he coveted my family relationship. You know, people, you hear all the time say, well, my background, I didn't have a loving father, I didn't have a loving mother. I was fortunate, and the Lord led me when my father was instrumental in my conversion. And Jack is talking here about when we were at Hillcrest Baptist Church, and I befriended him. I got to be honest with you, he was a great pitcher, and I wanted him on our ball team. You can say befriending or not. That was not a mistake. That was on purpose that I befriended him. But I never realized. He kept talking about the rich kid. Well, I wore blue jeans like everybody else. But you know what I remember most about Jack is when he lived across the street from the church that I was converted in, and he kept talking about Sizemore and our family. And my mother used to always say that one thing when he surrendered for the ministry, I got to be honest with all of you, and Jack doesn't know I ever said this. I said, Jack Hyles, who married a girl up the street from me, Beverly Slaughter, has surrendered to preach. He can't hardly speak his name, for crying out loud. And look what the Lord has done, taking a life that's committed to the Lord. We love you, Brother Jack, and I want to say one other thing, and I know I'm not.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's the memories of. He'll remember this, and I'm not going to say like everybody, it's been a long time. It seemed like just yesterday to me. My hair is gray, but you know, the enthusiasm that Jack has had, and through the years, and even though we've not been close together, he's kept in touch. I met him in Longview at Brother Bob Gray's church a couple of years ago when he had This Is Your Life. He's always had that knack to keep in touch. And I don't know if many of you that have ever been here as a guest, but I walked in the hotel yesterday, and I just brought a little overnight back because I'm going back this afternoon. I mean, I had candy, I had flowers, I had a cake, I had a love gift, have money, and I don't even preach.
Don't feel bad. A lot of these guys get paid and don't preach much either.
Jack will remember this, and I won't take any more of your time, and that was when we took bicycle ride. He said he had a bicycle and his sister. It was in July of about 1943, before the war. We decided we'd ride, and then, which is cross town to the White Rock Lake and make the lake. And then you had those kind of bicycles that didn't have 15 gears. You use your legs. And we started about 9 o'clock in the morning. Brother Bob Keys and Jack and George and Bob Lovell, friends of his. One of his friends, Bob, is a pastor somewhere, has been in Ohio. But anyway, we took that long trek, and we went to White Rock, and it took us about 6 hours. Everybody got back practically dead, and Jack was always a leader. You know, he is a competitor. Have y'all noticed that? Jack, there's so many things I could say, but the thing I want to mention most of all is how much my mother has prayed for you.
What a wonderful woman.
Daily through the years. When he surrendered for the ministry and going through college, I went to Baylor, and he went to Marshall. And when I used to come home on the weekends, my mother always had a family devotion. I'm an only child, but the three of us would always kneel, and the first thing she always mentioned was Jack Hyles' ministry, and to bless his ministry. And believe me, her prayers have been answered. She's gone to be with the Lord a couple of years ago, but pray for my father and our family, and I pray for your ministry, and it's just such a joy for me to be here and share all this enthusiasm you have. I've never been to a pastor's conference. I'm 68 years old. Thank you, Jack.
You know, Pee Wee, I still have
Dr. Hyles, I'm sorry.
That's right. Okay, Dr. Pee Wee. Leroy is a very successful has owned insurance agency in Garland still.
It's Dallas. We moved to Dallas.
Dallas. But I still have the picture when we won the city championship softball, and you played first base. I still have that picture. It was in the newspaper when we won the city championship. In fact, it's probably out of our memory room. Remember that room out there where I got a bunch of stuff. And there's so many memories, of course. But the reason I brought you here was to thank you for befriending me. I don't think I'd be here today if you hadn't, as a rich kid, I thought, been friendly. And of course you can see he's always friendly. This is Leroy Howard. Stand right there, Leroy. I'm here today because of
you. Because of you, I'm here today. You had a part in some small way. Whate'er I am or hope to be, you had a part in making me. You crossed my path one happy day and helped me find God's perfect way. I would not know the joys he had you not humbly crossed my path.
Let me say a word before he steps down. One reason we have our bus ministry is because I was one of those kids. I've never said this, but one reason we honor those street people, over 200 people picked up off the streets who live homeless lives, Brother Leroy, were in here last Sunday morning, because I don't know how many nights I went downtown Dallas, down on Deep Elm, and picked up my daddy off the street, sleeping on concrete. You just don't ever know, you teenagers, some little poor kid comes to your class, what it means when you are snotty to him. You just don't know what it means to them if somebody that has a mom and a daddy in a house makes them feel like they're somebody. Thanks, Leroy. I knew you were going to have trouble there. But I knew it. Because Pee Wee never stands still very long. And he was supposed to go back and usher him, but he came out, he was already up here, and he came back, take him back, and he had to run back there. And I ain't getting my Bible here. I want to talk to you no, I'm not going to preach. I just want to talk to you a little while about a mistake I made one time, inviting you to pastor school. Let me, before I go, I'm going to talk on a mistake I made when I was a boy of not living by that kind of a schedule. And I'm going to talk to you about the young Jack Hyles and his schedule. I'm talking about way back yonder now in East Texas. But I want to read a verse for you. Don't turn to it, but I want to read a verse to you. And there'll be no notes to take for a few minutes because I'm going to talk to you about this verse for a few minutes. As the Lord commanded Moses, his servant, so did Moses command Joshua, and so did Joshua. Now get this line. He left nothing undone of all that the Lord commanded Moses. He left nothing undone of all that the Lord commanded Moses. Didn't say he didn't leave anything undone. He said left nothing undone that God commanded. In other words, everything God commanded, Joshua did. It says he left nothing undone of all that the Lord had commanded. Life is too short. Now hear me carefully. Life is too short to do everything. Nobody in this room can do all he's supposed to do. That means that since none of us can do all he's supposed to do, that means there's some things in life we have to leave undone. Show me what you leave undone, and I will tell you what kind of Christian you are. Everybody has to leave something undone. Don't show me what you've done, show me what you've left undone. Most of us leave the important things undone, because the big things never clamor for your time. Big things and big people don't. Lee Robertson's never said to me, "You never spend any time with me." I called you and couldn't get through. No, big people don't clamor for your time. And the important things in life don't clamor for your time. The little things, the pesky things that clamor and beg and plead and fight for your time. Consequently, the most important things in life must be done on purpose. You'll do the least important things, they will command you to do so. But if you do the big things, you'll do those big things on purpose. Somebody took a poll of preachers, listed the six, what they thought were the six duties of the pastorate. And they said, question one, what of these six is most important? And the most important the preachers voted for was prayer. The last thing they voted for in importance was administration. Second question was, what do you spend the most time on? List how many hours you spend a week on these six things. Number one was administration. Number six, or last, was prayer. And that's your problem. Hey, in case you would like to know it, there is a God in heaven. And in case you would like to know it, He hears prayers. And in case you would like to know it, He answers prayers. And in case you would like to know it, the most important thing in your life as a man of God is your prayer time. For instance, I have a lot to do. I can't do all I'm supposed to do. I pastor a church with tens of thousands of members. 40,000 people come to this church at least once a month. I have Hammond Baptist schools. We have a grade school and a junior high school and a high school. And we have a bus kid grade school and bus kid junior high school and high school. 1,500 students in our schools. Hyles Anderson College will have anywhere from 2,500 to 3,000 students enrolled on a given year, full-time and part-time. I lead those things. I preach 3 sermons a day, average 3 sermons a day. I have 147 counseling sessions every week, average. It takes $40,000 every day of the year to keep us going. Now think about that for a minute. 40,000 times 7 is $280,000 a week. That's almost a third of $1 million that must come every week to keep this ministry going. I have to raise it. I travel 200,000 miles a year on jet planes preaching in churches and conventions across the country. I receive hundreds of pieces of mail a week. Pastors who need help call me. I'm sure I pastor 2,000 pastors. I've written 42 or 43 books. I'm busy. Now, I cannot do everything that I am supposed to do. That means I must choose what to do. Average preacher in this room spends most of your time doing things not even mentioned in this Bible. The Bible doesn't say anything about conducting funerals. Now I do it. Not many. My associate pastor conducts most of them. Bible says nothing about conducting weddings. Bible says nothing about pastoral visits to your people. And yet the average preacher here spends most of your time doing what the Bible says nothing about, like playing God. But anyway, now, if you came to my office today, if you sat down at my desk, if you could find the desk during this week, you sat down at my desk, I could ask you to turn around and look right behind my desk and you'll find a big box of letters that high. What's in there? Unanswered mail. Don't you answer your mail? No, not all of it. Why? Because it's not listed that high on my priorities. Don't misunderstand me. I send out letters every day. But I'm talking about there are literally hundreds of letters I've never answered. Why? Because I am going to get my prayer time in. And I am going to get my Bible study time in. And I'm going to get my soul winning time in. And I'm going to get my preaching time in. I'm trying to tell you, men, the great secret to success in any area is what you leave undone. Joshua left nothing undone of all the Lord commanded. There may have been a few suggestions he left undone. There may have been a few preferences left undone, but Joshua said, if all the things I leave undone, I'm not going to leave undone what God commanded me to do. Joshua couldn't do it all. He had to leave something undone. He looked at all he had to do, checked to see if there were commandments, did everything commanded, left no commandments undone, then did all he could do of the rest and left the rest undone. Many a successful person has been a failure in life because of what he left undone. Many a good soul-winning wife has been a failure in life because she left the main thing in life of being a good wife undone. Many a successful pastor has been a failure in life because he left the wrong things undone. Many a successful husband has been a failure in life because he left the wrong things undone. Many a wonderful mother, a soul-winning young person, a popular woman speaker, a good Bible teacher has been a failure in life because they've done the things that are not commanded and left those things undone. For example, now listen carefully to me. I'm going to teach you something you never heard before in your life. Take Proverbs 31. You ladies, you love to talk about the Proverbs 31 woman. Did you know there's not a single commandment in Proverbs 31? I'm talking about Joshua left nothing undone of all that God commanded. In Proverbs 31, there are no commandments. It talks about a virtuous woman, but doesn't tell a woman what to do. But in Ephesians 5:22, it says it commands a woman to submit herself to her own husband. And Ephesians 5:24, it's a commandment that says be in subjection to your own husband. And Ephesians 5:33, it's a commandment that a woman reverence her husband. Now, God commands you to submit yourself and subject yourself to your husband. I like the Ephesians 5 woman best. For Proverbs 31 just simply tells about a good virtuous woman. Ephesians 5 says, do this. Joshua said, I can't do everything I'm supposed to do, so I'm going to put the commandments on top. And ladies, you go back home and be a decent wife and put the commandments on the top of your list. Don't teach in my Bible school if you're not a submissive wife. I don't care if you're the best soul winner in your church. I don't care if you travel 565 million miles a year speaking at women's conventions. I wouldn't give a dime for you unless you obey the commandments. Yeah, ladies, like calling your husbands yesterday is not as much fun as you thought it was, is it? Hold it, fellas, you gonna get it. Did you know there's nothing in the Bible about fathers taking their children on a vacation? Now, I'm not against it, but nothing in the Bible about it. Did you know there's nothing in the Bible that teaches that a father's supposed to take his son fishing? Did you know there's nothing in the Bible that teaches a father's supposed to take his son to a ball game? And yet these ignorant, stupid, modern psychiatrists and psychologists say, you didn't turn out good because your dad didn't take you to watch the Cubs. That's what ruined you. You take a guy to watch the Cubs, that's punishment. Now you listen, dads, you hear me well. You sit up straight and you listen to me. God never commanded you to do what the average man thinks is being a good father. I'm not against taking your kid to a ball game. I took Dave to ball games. I took Dave fishing. I took Dave soul winning. Dave and I played ball in the yard, and we played in the park together, baseball, football, basketball. And I'm for that, but God never commanded it. But God did command you to rear your children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Now you listen to me. It's time that you decided you're going to do what God commanded first. Now, if you can do what God commanded and take your boy to the ball game, that's fine. But if you got to choose between the ball game, don't take pictures right now. I'll be out in the alley with my shirt off. After a while, you can take pictures in. God commanded you to get that book and teach it to your boy. And yet I'm talking to men all over this room. You never take 5 minutes a day to teach that book to your boy. Don't talk to me about being a good dad. Joshua did left nothing undone of all that God commanded. Didn't say he didn't leave anything undone. He had to leave some things undone. He was a great leader. He couldn't do all expected of him. But he said, whatever I do, I'm going to obey the commandments. That's top priority in my life. Boy, that's good. You think you're a good dad because you take your boy bowling, or take him to a ball game, or shoot a few baskets with him. You listen to me. You get that boy down and you teach that boy some character, and you teach that boy the Bible, and you get that girl down and teach that girl the Word of God. It's time that you quit deciding what being a good dad is. You've listened to a bunch of stupid psychiatrists and psychologists that ought to go to a psychiatrist and psychologist. And by the way, some of you preachers have been reading so much of that garbage that you're advising your people the same way they are. My Bible says, rear your children in the nurture and admonition of God, and that is a commandment. But you know, if you have to neglect one, put the ball down, get the Bible out. Now, I'd like for you to get the Bible and the ball. If you can't do both of them, put the ball down, get the Bible out, and do not leave undone what God commanded you to do. Did you know, I'm going to shock you here, there's nothing in the Bible about school. The God of America. Now, I'm for school. I spend a lot of my time keeping schools afloat, but nothing in the Bible about it. God never said, thou shalt send thy kids to school. But there's something in the Bible about church. I tell our Hyles College professors, you go to school on Monday morning and you don't go to church on Sunday morning, you're not fit to teach in Hyles College. Folks, life is a matter of priorities. I see signs, bumper stickers. My child made the honor roll, Evolution High School. I like that one that says, my child punched out your honor roll kid. How about putting this on the bumper sticker? My child obeys his parents. How about putting this on a bumper sticker? My child honors his parents, because the Bible doesn't command your child to make the honor roll, but it commands your child to honor his mom and dad. The average person in this room is living a life leaving the commandments undone and the unnecessary of the things you do. Joshua left nothing undone of all that God commanded him. Illustration. There's nothing in the Bible about macho husbands. You Arnold Schwarzeneggers. And nothing in the Bible about a domineering, bossy husband. Nothing. Before you lead your wife, she's supposed to agree to follow. And before she follows, you ought to have the ability and capability to convince her you know where you're going. You know, there's nothing in the Bible about husbands being domineering and exciting. We have a lady that sits right up here every Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. She's a good lady. She's one of the best beginner workers I ever saw in my life. has a good husband, been members of this church for over 30 years. They got older and retired. Her husband's home all the time. He wanted her to be home with him. He asked her if she would resign her beginner department and not be beginner department superintendent any longer. I'm going to surprise you right now. And she said, I'd like to keep my department, but I'll obey what you say. Her husband, now whether he asked her the right thing or not, I don't know. That's not the issue. The issue is he asked her if she'd resign her beginner department and sit with him in church because they're now retired. She did. And I think she did the right thing. She obeyed the commandment to submit yourself to your husband. Now, if her husband told her to go get drunk, the Lord has some commandments about that, but the Lord never says, thou shalt be superintendent of the beginner department. I'm going to tell you a story. You're going to like this. There's one henpecked fellow back there's with me all the way. Dr. Tom Malone pastored the same church over 40 years. At my pleading and begging him not to do so, he resigned the church and retired. The church went down and down and down and down and down until it got to less than 200 people. One time they ran 3,000. Dr. Tom Malone is now 79 years of age. After about 10 years of being away from the church has called him back. And Dr. Malone is like a little boy with a toy. He is having the time of his life. Well, the church is so far down, Dr. Malone decided he wouldn't take any more speaking engagements for about a year or so he could spend his time out soul winning and get the job done. My secretary called Dr. Malone at my orders, and she said, Dr. Malone, Brother Hyles wants you to speak at pastor school. Now, wait a minute. This is the biggest gathering of independent Baptists in the world. Dr. Malone said, I can't. She said, why? He said, I just can't do it. I found out later why. Because Dr. Malone had decided he was going to spend his time soul winning and not take any more engagements. And Dr. Malone, who's preached here many times, declined the invitation so he could go soul winning and talk to one person about the Savior. And I think he made a good choice. Years ago, when Dr. G.B. Vick was pastor in Detroit, he was one of my heroes. At that time, he had the largest church in America. This has been many years ago, probably 35 years ago, maybe 30 years ago. Dr. Vick had the largest church in the world. He came by, he was going through town one day, stopped to see me, just dropped in. I didn't know he was coming. I had a date that afternoon with Becky, our daughter, who was probably 10. Had a scheduled date with Becky. Dr. Malone came in my office just before I left to go be with Becky. He said, Dr. Hyles, I need an hour of your time. I said, Doc, I can't give it to you. He said, what do you mean? I said, I've got an appointment. He said, what is so important that you couldn't see me for an hour? I said, I don't go tell you what it is, but it's that important. And I can't see you. I was a kid preacher. I was in my 30s, and I turned down the famous Dr. G.B. Vick, pastor of the largest church in the world, to go out and have a date with Becky. God didn't command me to be a good friend to Vic. He commanded me to be a good father to Becky. Dr. Vic got upset and left. Several weeks later, I got a letter from Dr. Vic. Said, Dear Dr. Hyles, I found out what was so important, that you couldn't see me. And I was angered by it. G.B. Vick. P.S. You made the right choice. The honest, simple truth is, I have all kinds of invitations to lead the queer rights movement. Oh, not the movement, but the anti-queer rights movement. And brother, I'd like to do it. But there's no commandment in this book about it. choice is to lead the anti-abortion battle, and God knows I hate this baby killing with a passion. It's murder. If a doctor does it, ought to be put in an electric chair, and that'd solve it. But I turn it down because I have no commandment. James Robinson, several years ago, was in trouble, called me on the phone, back before he was what he is, before he changed to what he was, from what he was to what he is, and what he used to be to what he was. He said, Dr. Hyles, I want you to come and speak. 10,000 people, Dallas Convention Center, a big rally I'm having. I'll put it on nationwide television. I said, I can't do it. He said, now, look, you don't preach to 10,000 people every day. I said, no, but every Sunday I do. And he said, I need you. I said, I can't go. He said, why didn't you take it? Because there's no commandment in the Bible about it. America will never go forward until America has some preachers who do not leave undone the things that God has commanded. I'll tell you a little story. Many of you have heard it. I think I won't. I think I'll give you a little outline right quickly, because I'm going to leave something undone if I don't. Follow me carefully. I want to talk quickly now and tell you the priorities and the schedule of the young Jack Hyles. Not the Jack Hyles now, but the young Jack Hyles. Point number one, the young Jack Hyles spent 20 hours a week in prayer. So does the old Jack Hyles. That's first on my list of priorities. That's a commandment. I never walk in this pulpit on Sunday without spending 20 hours a week in the woods alone with God during the week. Never do. Number two, the young Jack Hyles had a date each week with Mrs. Hyles. She says, is that a commandment? No, but it sure was fun. And is. Number three, the young Jack Hyles had a 1-hour date each week with each daughter. A 1-hour date each week with each daughter. Number four, the young Jack Hyles has spent at least an hour, and usually more, activities with his son Dave each week. Number five, young Jack Hyles gave every Saturday morning to his young people. Every Saturday morning, the young Jack Hyles gave to his young people. Some of that, as I told you before, was I'd organize a little junior boy softball league, and I'd be the head of it, the umpire, and I'd organize the league. I'd rush to my office and leave my office door open 3 hours every Saturday morning so my high school folks could walk in and be with me. As I said the other day, to this day, every Saturday morning I got a bunch of high school girls come in, a bunch of high school boys come in, and we just have a time together, a lot of fun. I'm still a little high schooler. When I became a teenager, I didn't trade my childhood in. I added adolescence to my childhood. When I became an adult, I didn't trade my adolescence in for it. I added my adulthood to my adolescence. That's why I can conduct Vacation Bible School and enjoy it, and kids have a great time. That's why I can preach at youth conference and enjoy it, and the kids have a great time. That's why I can get you old deadheads, and I can enjoy it while you have a miserable time. Number six, every Saturday afternoon, young Jack Hyles went home, took the car at noon, tossed the keys to Mrs. Hyles and said, get out of here, I'll babysit for 5 hours. Every Saturday afternoon, from noon to 5, I took care of the kids, let Miss Hyles get out and have some time alone. Young Jack Hyles, number 7, Monday through Friday. This is before I was known. Monday through Friday, 6 o'clock to noon, prayer time and Bible time, every day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 6 o'clock in the morning till noon, prayer time and Bible time. In the little country churches, I'd leave the house at 6 o'clock. I'd get up about 5:30, leave the house at 6 o'clock. And I didn't require Mrs. Hyles to get up. I'd come back at 7, have breakfast with her. Number 8, young Jack Hyles, Monday through Friday, went home for lunch. at lunch with Mrs. Hyles. I'm not one of these fellas, I never have been, who grabs a cinnamon roll on the way out and eats it in the car going to work. We've always sat down at the table. We've always sat down at the table. The meal time has always been a time of more than just eating. Monday through Friday, I'd go home for lunch. I'd go home for breakfast at 7 o'clock. Number 10, I went soul winning every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 1 to 5 in the afternoon. I went soul winning Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday from 1 to 5. It's back in the days when women obeyed their obeyed the command that said, stay home and take care of your kids. Now I want to tell you something, fellas, look at me. Don't you tell me you have a hard field till you spent 20 hours a week out soul winning in your field. Don't you talk to me about it. I don't want to hear you. I promise you, if you're sincere and clean and honest, and will work, I promise you, you can build a church anywhere in this world if you'll spend 20 hours on your face with God and 20 hours on your feet going soul winning. I promise you, you build a church anywhere in this world. Number 12, young Jack Hyles went soul winning Tuesday night 7 to 10 and Thursday nights from 7 to 10. That's 22 hours every week. And get invitations in those days to go around the country and preach. I was an unknown country preacher. Number 13 and last, I was home Monday and Friday and Saturday nights. See, we were married over 5 years before we had our first child. And even then, when I got bigger and church got bigger, I had to rearrange my schedule. I'm talking about the young Jack Hyles. I'm talking about you fellows that trying to copy the Jack Hyles of 1995. You'd be very wise to copy the Jack Hyles of 1955. So I was home every Monday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. That was my schedule. Now listen to me, and we're going to take some time to sell a book or two and go lunch. Joshua left nothing undone of all that God commanded. Ask a question. What are you leaving undone? Okay, let me ask a question. I'm going to embarrass you. How much have you prayed since Monday night? Some of you got that scripture that says pray without ceasing, and you thought it means in the Greek sleep without ceasing, loaf without ceasing. While you've been fellowshipping in the breaks and at lunch, I've been pastoring my church. I've been studying for my next Wednesday night Bible study and my Sunday sermons. I'll leave here and go to lunch, and I'll sit there with a sandwich on the table, but I'll work the whole time. And while you guys, after you preach nights, go to the restaurants, I go to my room, go to work. Let me tell you something. This man sitting over here, didn't know he was here a minute ago, Dr. Robertson, all of our hero. He's a hero to all of us. Patriarch of the faith. Dr. Robertson, the difference in you and Dr. Robertson is he faced the same troubles you faced. He stayed, you left. He faced the same obstacles you faced. You said, I feel led to another field. He said, I feel led to fight the battle out here. And I know something else about him. It was his responsibility to be in chapel at Tennessee Temple College on Wednesdays. For years, probably 40 years, Dr. Lee Robertson would fly all night long on a Tuesday night. I'm talking about a 70-year-old Lee Robertson now, to get back on chapel on Wednesday. Joshua left nothing undone of all that the Lord commanded. Go home and get your priorities in order. I said again, you can't do it all. You're not going to be able to do everything you're supposed to do. If you can't play ball with your kid, teach the Bible to him. If you haven't got time to go speak at the ladies' groups around the country, stay home and be a decent wife. I'm not against it. I'm not against speaking, for ladies speaking somewhere. My wife does occasionally, but I'll tell you one thing. I'm against these gals going around the country neglecting their husbands, teaching their wives how not to. There's nothing wrong with your situation and your church that couldn't be cured by proper priorities. Don't forget the text. And Joshua left nothing undone of all that the Lord had commanded. He commands you to live in this book. He commands you to pray without ceasing. He commands you to go soul winning. And you're spending most of your time doing the things that man has invented, or what you're supposed to do, and little time at what God has commanded you to do. And Joshua left nothing undone of all that the Lord had commanded, said. And Joshua left nothing undone of all that the Lord had commanded. Said again. And Joshua left nothing undone of all that the Lord had commanded. Said again. And Joshua left nothing undone of all that the Lord had commanded. One suggestion. Go home, look at your schedule. Go step by step through what you do and see right beside commandment every time it's something God commanded. Then take that, put it at the top of the list, and put that on the top priorities. And the things not commanded that you'd like to do, maybe you should do, put that on the bottom of the list. And after you get all the commanded things done, then do the things not commanded till you run out of time. Then stop. It'll change your life. See, you don't need to come here to learn how to paint the nursery so it won't be a glare in the eyes of the children, or how to make the nursery curtains match the walls. That's what you need, you think. But what you really need is to get your priorities in order. And it's very simple. Just start off with what God has commanded. She worketh diligently with her hands. She put her hand to the distaff. She riseth while it is yet night to give food to her family. She dealeth with the merchants afar. That's fine. But it's not a commandment. All right. Submit yourself to your own husband. Be in subjection to your own husband. Reverence your own husband. That's a commandment. That's a commandment. I love that commandment also. I command you to buy Hyles' books. That's a commandment. It's in the book. All right, we're going to take just a moment, and then we'll go get a bite to eat. You can gossip, and I'll go to work. All right. No leaving. No leaving. Okay, listen carefully. Watch me. If I could buy a book for you and give it to you, listen to me, I'd give this book to you. It's called The Science of the Christian Life. It sells $13.95. To make it even, we're selling it for $13. I taught these lessons on Wednesday night. Listen to this. The Science of Leadership. I'm talking, my son-in-law, Jack Scott, he gave me this idea. He looked at me one day and he said, preacher, he said, you have made a science of the Christian life. You have made a science of the Christian life. And I got the idea. The science of leadership, the science of appetites, the science of emotions, the science of marriage, part 1, part 2, part 3, the science of anger, when to use anger, when not to use it, the science of schedule, the science of discerning right from right, so I'll talk about this morning, the science of prayer, the science of staying on top, the science of not becoming bitter. All these are how to do it. They're workshops. These are not just inspirational sermons. They're how to do these things. The science of fellowship, the science of getting close. I promise you this. I don't know anybody real well, but I promise you I'm close to thousands of people. I'm close to my staff. I'm close to my people. I'm close to my deacons. The science of getting close, the science of temptation, the science of friendship, the science of Bible study, the science of homesickness, the science of mystique. All of these in this book, The Science of the Christian Life. I hope to have another one out, part 2, by next year. But this is a how to do it book. This is a textbook, The Science of the Christian Life. It costs $13. Here's a little book called How to Rear Infants. It costs $7. I love this book. It has in here, if I can find it here, preparing for the baby. While you're pregnant, your wife's pregnant, how to prepare for the baby. Chapter 2, the days at the hospital. How to spend those days at the hospital. For example, don't forget your husband. That's when he needs you the most. While you're at the hospital waiting to come home, spoil your husband rotten. Think of things to do. Write love letters to him. It says, chapter 3, now you're home. What to do when you get home from the hospital. Chapter 4, teaching character to an infant. Our daughter Cindy will tell you this. I've taught her that her little infant, when they come home from the hospital, they'll be taught schedule. Schedule. Go pick them up same time every day. Feed them same time every day. Love on them the same time every day. Teach them in the subconscious to live by schedule. Chapter 5, spend some time away from your baby. Chapter 6, disciplining an infant. Chapter 7, teaching the infant about God. Expressing love to your child. And then questions and answers and so forth. It's $7, How to Rear Infants. And then this book, How to Rear Children. It is a book that deals more than that. The first 7 chapters of this book deal with character. For example, developing the will, developing self-control, proper manners, reverence for God, how to form proper habits, work, teaching independence and self-reliance. It's a book of character. How to Rear Children, it's $9. Then this album of cassettes called For Ladies Only. All of these are sermons I preached at the Ladies' National Convention. Woman the Completer, Woman the Holy Spirit of the Family, Woman the Candle of the Lord, Needed a Queen, What Could Have Been Done More, So Your Spouse is Lost. 6 sermons for ladies only. I promise you they'll transform your life, ladies. And fellas, get a copy for your wife while you're here. Okay, fellas, ushers, come if you would. For ladies only, $15. The Science of the Christian Life, $13. How to Rear Infants, $7. How to Rear Children, $9. They'll take care of you right quickly. We're going to be gone in a minute. Don't worry about leaving now. If you have listen, please do not talk unless you're talking to the men. If you have a question, just scream at me real loud and I'll find you. Yes, sir. Do I what? Missionaries on deputation, we give them 6 o'clock on Sunday night, 6 to 6:50. Never take my preaching time, but we give them the 6 to 6:50, and usually we'll have 2,000 or 3,000 people in here, and they speak to them. Yes, sir.
When you were in
I decorated this auditorium myself. I chose everything. I'm not opposed to, and on occasion I think maybe I chose it and took it to the deacons, and I told them, this is not a part of your job, but I would like to have your advice. See, you'd be surprised if you knew how much advice I ask and how many times I go against my own thoughts to take the advice of my staff or my deacons. I have the final decision, and because I do have the final decision, I can allow myself to lean on them heavily. And I do that. Holler at me. Where are you? Stand up. I'm over here. Fellas, is tonight's session going to be on audio? PA men? How about video? How's that? During the lunch hour, I'll see what they can do out there for us. As of now, we have made no plans, he says. We'll try to. It ought to be, because it's going to be, you'll never forget tonight. You never will forget tonight. If you can't get in the main auditorium, you go to that ballroom. And anybody else have a question while they're selling?
How was the transition in your young life from Methodist and Baptist? Would you have gone back if you couldn't find a church?
Well, I was never a Methodist. My mother was a Methodist, but we went, when I was about 5 years old, went to a Baptist church, and I used to go to the Methodist church as a child. I can remember going, and I can remember going to vacation Bible school at the Methodist church, but I wasn't saved then.
Did your mother have you sprinkled as a baby as Methodist?
No, she did not. That's a good question. I've never been asked that question. She did not have me sprinkled as a baby in a Methodist church. Yes, sir.
Will you be providing instructions on how to get to the place tonight?
Yes, sir, I will. I really will. Yes, sir. Who's talking? Who's talking? All right. Oh, when I had a date with my daughters, I'd take them to the park, ice cream store, things like that. Just where you go is not the issue. The issue that you go. Talk to me loud. Sir? I've taught that all week. I visited every absentee. I visited every absentee. I mentioned that. Now, no, I've never made just pastoral visits. That's not in the Bible. I've never just gone place to place and eaten upside down cake and chocolate cake and eclairs and sipped a cup of tea just to fellowship. I never have done that, and I'm not going to. I quit the ministry for a wood. In fact, folks that do that have already quit. As a pastor, when I was young, I didn't have much counseling to do. Nobody wanted to find out what I thought. I was too young. And office work, only office work I had was opening the door to the office. As the church got bigger, I told you, I printed the bulletin. I wrote all the letters longhand. Didn't have a secretary. But you can do that in a hurry. I can print the bulletin in an hour. I can write all the letters longhand in 30 minutes. All right, one more question. Louder. At what age? About 2. All right. Thank you, fellows. Thank you very much. Now then, listen carefully to me. 2 things, and neither is long. First is, well, for that I want to thank the PA men. These are the greatest guys in the whole world. And by the way, if you ever want to pray for somebody, Mrs. Colston every year at pastor school works herself sick. She's sick this morning. She's running a fever. She has a congestion. She's always that way. She works herself sick, and you pray for her. She's here. she'd be here. She had 106 temperature and double pneumonia and heading toward triple pneumonia. She'd be here. Now, starting at this luncheon hour, you can build the books and tapes on the tables. We will build them. You must pay 1/3 down. Is that right, Rocky? 1/3 down, and we'll bill you for the other 2/3. Anything on the tables. Now, we never have sales here at the end of the week for one reason. We don't want people that bought the first of the week say, "Well, I wish I'd have waited." We never do that. So nothing is on sale, but you can get what you want and pay 1/3 down, and we'll bill you for it at the tables. They'll take care of that. I mentioned yesterday, we'll take what was it? We'll take MasterCard or what else? Discover or food stamps. And one guy went back seriously, with not kidding, and bought a book with food stamps. And I can't wait to take those stamps and go down and get me a good old meal, boy. I never sure. Now, look at me for 5 minutes and we'll be on our way. I want you to do something for me. I never promote. I have not promoted Hyles Anderson College all week. I have not passed any literature out about it. I'm not against that. Not against it. When I travel, I don't take my books. I never mention Hyles Anderson College. Never pass out any brochures. I'm not against that at all. Better men than I do. I just don't. I'm trying to tell you that I'm not being selfish. I'm not asking you to do anything for me. But we need, in every generation, we need new institutions. Have to have them. Every institution is going to die, except the church. God's promised perpetuity to the church. The church may die, but she doesn't have to die. She can choose to live because God's promised divine perpetuity to the church, but not to any other institution. That means that every single college is someday going to die, so we have to have new ones started all the time. That means every single paper is going to die, so we need new Christian papers to come along. That means eventually every single camp is going to die, so we need new camps coming, just like we need new children. I'm not dead yet, but thank God we got some young preachers coming on, and thank God we got some children being born all the time. Every generation has to reproduce, and every organization needs to reproduce. I say that to say this. I think one of the finest ministries in America today is the Mount Salem Conference Grounds Ranch, Dr. Randy Taylor heads. Now, it's an interesting thing to me how that those who are changing support their institutions, and those of us that are the same don't support our institutions. So I don't understand that. I never asked for anybody to put Hyles Anderson College in our budget, though we have all kinds of needs. I never have asked one person to put Hyles Anderson College in our budget. Never have. Never have asked a person for a dime for Hyles Anderson College. Never have. I don't plan to. But I'm asking you to consider putting Randy Taylor and Mount Salem Conference Grounds in your budget. They're living on a shoestring. The workers there receive no salary. They have to the assistants. They have to go out and raise their own money. They're on constant deputation. And Brother Randy Taylor is one of the finest men in America. And that Mount Salem Conference Ground is a baby conference ground that needs the support of men like you and me. Now, I make no bones about my friends. Brother, I love Randy Taylor, and I'm for Randy Taylor, and I'm going to do all I can to help him. Now, we need to have $2,500 a month pledged. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm not going to pledge it. But he needs that to keep operating. He's going to make it without our help. But they're living on a shoestring. And I want you preachers to go home and put Mount Salem in your budget. That's all I'm asking you to do. Now, if you can't put more than $5 a month, do it. But I want you to do it. Now, here's what I'm going to do. In a minute, I'm going to ask you to bow your heads. I'm going to see if we can get some promises. Not going to ask how much you're going to give. But if you will go home and do the best you can to put Mount Salem grounds in Mount Union, West Virginia in your budget, then I want you to raise your hand in a few minutes so I'll know how many are going to do it. I'm not going to look at you. I don't know. I'm just going to look at your hand, not your face. But I want us to get some promises today, and I mean definite promises. And what I want you to do, I want you to write your name. I want you to write your name and the name of your church and your address on a piece of paper. And all I want to do is send you a letter and remind you. I'm not going to send you 2 letters. I'm not going to dun you if you don't do it. I want to write you a note and say, hey, maybe you've forgotten. And I'll do it to everybody, not just those that forget. And say, I just want to remind you to help Brother Taylor. And if you can put him in your budget, I hope you'll do it. Again, I say we need always new institutions for every generation. I can recall when Dr. Rice started the Sword of the Lord. There were other papers that were drifting. And the Sword of the Lord was a maverick kind of a publication. But think what America would have been like if we hadn't had that baby born back yonder 50 or 60 years ago. So we need to support Randy Taylor. Would you bow your heads, please? I'm not looking at anything but the top of your head, and I don't recognize the top of your head. But I've got my hand up. I have put a note. I put a note in my file this morning to talk to my deacons at next deacons meeting about recommending to the church that we support Randy Taylor to the tune of $200 a month. Now, I wonder how many of you would say, preacher, I will promise to do my best to lead my church to give something every month to the Mount Salem Conference Ground. Would you raise your hand, please? Just raise your hand all over the building. Do it for my sake. You can put your hands down. Just before I pray, who else would raise your hand, please? Yes. Our Heavenly Father, burden the people's hearts. We get so wrapped up in our own ministries. We get to thinking about just our little corner of the world. So many of these men need help. I pray you'd bless us now. Amen. Now I want to tell you something about Mount Salem. Brother Randy Taylor believes that every ministry ought to be under a local church. I happen to agree. Brother Randy Taylor's ministry is a ministry of the First Baptist Church of Hammond. He operates it, but we approve everything. And his members, his folks are members of First Baptist Church Hammond. Their little chapel they have there is a chapel of First Baptist Church Hammond. Everybody that's a member there is a member of this church. So every speaker that speaks there, I approve it. And it's not. We don't run it. He runs it, but he feels like that there needs to be someone to be answerable to. He appears before our deacon board once a year, and our deacons ask him questions, and he's answerable to them. He runs it. We don't run it for him. But I think that's a wonderful way to operate. So would you take a piece of paper, you that raised your hands, would you take a piece of paper and write on any kind of paper? I'd prefer it to be green with the president's picture on it. But write on that piece of paper your name, your church's name, and your address. And I'm not going to dun you, and you'll never get a second letter, but I want to write your letter as a little string around your finger to remind you. And just simply say, I hope you can carry through with what you promised to do. Please do that. And I'm not going to check and see who didn't. I'm not in that kind of business. Give Dr. Robertson a hand, would you? All right, let me see here what it looks like. We'll come back at 1:30. The session this afternoon will not be quite as long as the others to give you a chance. Let me give you instructions on how to get out to the theater right now, and I'll give it to you again later. The instructions you have, I think it's placed on your car, wasn't it? Okay, here's the instructions. You go down here to the second stoplight, Calumet Street, turn left. And you will go north, and you'll come to the Indiana Toll Road. You go east on the Indiana Toll Road till you get to I-65. turn right, and you'll come to the Radisson Inn there on I-65 and Highway 30. It's on the right, and the Star Theater is there. So actually, north on Calumet, you folks are leaving. It sure is a wonderful thing to talk while you're walking out. You call that selfishness, but you go Calumet, north to the toll road, east I-65, and south on I-65, several miles, probably 10 miles maybe or so, you'll come to on the right. Now listen carefully. The Grange Hall Baptist Church building that we have dismantled and put up here will be open for you to see it this afternoon, between this afternoon session. We'll dismiss this afternoon around 4 o'clock. That'll give you 3 hours. That's 2 hours before the doors open. Now, if you're going to go by and see the Grange Hall Church building, you don't want to go that route, because that's going to put you several miles east of the college. What you want to do for that is you want to take, let's see, which is the easiest way. Take Calumet Street here, second stoplight. Turn right on Calumet, and till you get to 45th Street. That's a long ways. It's in Munster, little town we live. 45th Street, turn left till you get to 41, right on 41 till you get to 30, and left on 30. So let's put it this way. Calumet to 45th Street, left to 41, right to 30, and left, and you'll see the sign about 3 or 4 miles on the right. It says Hyles Anderson College. And let me say this too. Because of a traffic jam, do not drive your car up to the little building. It's out in the woods. You will be stuck there for the rest of the day. You drive your car to the students' parking lot, which is the first parking lot you come to when you get to the college. Big, huge, giant parking lot. There will be shuttle buses that'll take you over to the little Grange Hall Baptist Church, and that way it'll be much, much faster for you. So don't drive your car in the main entrance of the campus. Just before you get to the campus, to use Pollock instructions, go to the main entrance and turn around and come back about 100 yards. And you Yankees understand that perfectly, don't you? But you just go Calumet to 45th Street. 45th Street does not go all the way through it. You can only turn left there. And go 45th to Highway 41, right to Highway 30, left to the college, and then park in the student parking lot, and there'll be shuttle buses there. I'll see you at, what time did I say? 1:30.